Hello viewers and hearty welcome to you all to the lecture series as a part of World Space Week 2021 celebration by Satish Dhawan Space Center, Shar, Sriharikota. This lecture is being delivered by Dr. R. Venkatraman, Deputy Director, SDSC Shar. Dr. Venkatraman, presently an outstanding scientist, has pursued BE in Mechanical Engineering from Tyagarajar College of Engineering, Madurai. He holds Masters of Technology in Heat Transfer and Thermal Power Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He has obtained PhD from Sri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati in Department of Engineering. He has joined Satish Dhawan Space Center, Shar, ISRO in the year 1987 and has held managerial positions in the area of launch vehicle stage preparation. He was the Group Director for System Reliability before taking on the responsibility of Deputy Director for Vehicle Assembly and Launch Facilities. Among his significant contributions are conducting of 6-component static test on S-139 solid rocket motor, integration of strap-ons and second stages for PSLV and GSLV launch vehicles. He was instrumental in the realization of L-110 integration facilities for GSLV Mark III. Ensuring the reliability of ground systems for carrying out flight operations and managing launch campaigns from launch pads are his special achievements. He is presently Deputy Director, Vehicle Assembly and Launch Facilities, VALF, SDSC, Shar, and Project Director, PSLV Integration Facilities, PIF, Associate Project Director, Gaganyaan, the prestigious human spaceflight endeavour of India for launch pad, crew facilities, recovery and readaptation. He is also Associate Program Director, Program Steering Group, Space Transportation Systems. He has to his credit several publications in conferences and national journals in the area of ignition overpressure of solid rocket motors and recovery methodologies for future space missions. He is a member in professional bodies like High Energy Materials Society of India, Indian Society for Non-Destructive Testing, Astronautical Society of India and AESI. He is a recipient of ISRO Team Excellence Award 2007, 2011 and 2016 and ISRO Merit Award for the year 2017. With this introduction, I would request Dr. R. Venkatraman, Deputy Director, SDSC Shar, to deliver his talk. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, viewers. Let me welcome all of you for this technical lecture on account of the World Space Week Celebration 2021 organized by Satish Dhawan Space Center. Today my technical lecture covers the topic called the challenges in assembly and integration of future launch vehicles of ISRO. Basically, my presentation will cover the brief history of ISRO space activities and launch vehicle and launch pad system, that is the vehicle system as well as the ground systems, and the kind of vehicles what we are presently using, PSLV, GSLV with the different variants, and the GSLV Mark III launch vehicle, the integration activities till we take up the launch mission. Subsequently, we are also planning to go with the reusable launch vehicle system RLV and the launch complex augmentation in terms of the output increase from both the launch pads of the first launch pad and second launch pad, and also the small satellite launch vehicle to cater the needs of the micro satellite launch vehicle that is going to come in the future demand, and also the launch complex requirements for the manned mission, that's called Gaganyaan mission, and the test vehicle program which I will briefly explain, and the modified configuration of the GSLV Mark III variant with the current propulsion system of cryogenic and earth storable stage 2, the semi-cryo 120 tons and the cryo 32 stages. Coming to the brief overview, the last 5 decades what the ISRO has taken up. You are all aware the Indian space program started under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai with a humble beginning of starting at the Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Center, where the purpose of the first mission was to send a sounding rocket which is almost close to the equator to see the atmospheric studies, that is called a Rohini type of sounding rockets. That program started with a 125 millimeter to 560 millimeter sounding rockets. A rocket is just a payload which reaches the some particular altitude, but it will not have the required thrust to put a satellite into orbit. But with the technological advancement in the propulsion system and the control system and spacecraft systems, slowly ISRO marched to put up the very first Rohini satellite of 40 kg using a SLV launch. That is the first successful satellite launched by our own vehicle from the Indian soil, that is at Sriharikota. Later on, the satellite launch vehicle SLV technology has been augmented to ASLV, that is the augmented satellite launch vehicle. With augmenting the strap-on technology, thereby our capability has gone from 40 kg to 150 kg low Earth orbit. Then subsequently, the evolution started with the so-called workhorse, the PSLV, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, what we call today, is the workhorse what we developed. It is not only launching the satellites into the polar orbit, it is capable of taking the vehicle to geo-orbit, geostationary orbit, and the Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, interplanetary missions, everywhere that is acting as a workhorse. Then we have developed the next generation launch vehicle, the GSLV Mark II, with the liquid propulsion system, earth storable propulsion system, followed by the cryogenic upper stage system. Thereby we can take the satellite of around 2500 kg to geotransfer orbit and geosynchronous orbit, which is mainly used to carry the communication satellites into orbit. Subsequently, the augmentation of the propulsion system helped the ISRO to go to the capability of taking around 4.5 tons to GTO, that is GSLV Mark III launch vehicle. Now the question comes, the future launch vehicle means beyond GSLV Mark III, what is the plan ISRO has, and what is the state of art of the programs what we have, how the ground systems, that is the Sriharikota launch complex, we are equipping to take care of the future missions like Gaganyaan, that is human space flight program, which is not only a launch vehicle, but we are going to take the humans to space and bring them safely to the earth. This kind of planning, how the ground system modifications and what are all the infrastructure modifications we are doing, and the number type of test and rehearsal and qualification we are doing. And you are also aware that we are going to take up the forthcoming missions like Chandrayaan 3, where the lander, we had a setback in the last Chandrayaan 2 mission, and now we are going to make a successful Chandrayaan mission. Coming to the Satish Dhawan Space Center, it is a spindle-shaped island where we have two launch pads to take up this program. One is the first launch pad where the launch vehicle will be integrated on the pad, and the integration building, that is now mobile service tower, will be moved back. The vehicle will be stationary right from the stacking to the lift off, and on pad integration activities will be carried out. On right side what you are seeing is the second launch pad where the building is stationary. The integrated vehicle is moved from the building to the launch pad by means of a bogie system where the vehicle will be moved and there it will be launched. The advantage of this is we have the flexibility of the launch vehicle. In case of a call off, we can take it out and make the next launch program, whereas the first launch pad it cannot be possible because till the vehicle clears the pad we cannot take up the next launch program. This is the overview of the first launch pad since this operational, complete operational from the 1993 onwards, and this concept what you are seeing, the tower, the mobile service tower, what you are seeing is the structure weighing around 3,500 tons. After the vehicle is integrated, the entire structure is moved back through a hydraulic system, and the launch vehicle will be standing alone before the liftoff. Coming to the vehicle assembly activities at launch pad, if you look at it, the launch pad consists of service tower, integration building, and there is a launch pedestal, fixed launch pedestal. Over the launch pedestal we have a central annular structure, CIS, what you are seeing in the next, and there is a jet deflector. Whatever the bottom corner what you are using JDD, jet deflector duct, which is capable of diverting the flame after the vehicle is firing, so that the fold back of the flame will not happen and go and destroy the top structures. And on the right top what you are seeing is the umbilical tower. Umbilical tower is the structural member which encompasses the support for the launch vehicle as long as it is on the ground. All the umbilical connectivity, how the baby takes the food from the mother, there is a connectivity from the ground in terms of electric power, propellant servicing lines, pneumatic servicing lines, all the command lines will be taking from the ground support from the control center. Thereby the vehicle is fully dependent on the ground system support. Once the vehicle lifts off, the umbilical will get separated and the vehicle will get its own power from the batteries, its own propellant from the tank, its own pressurizing gas from the accumulated gas bottles. This is the independent vehicle because we cannot consume the total thing when the vehicle is on the ground. So there is a requirement during the mission only, all the power management is done. That's why it's called umbilical tower. This umbilical tower connects the ground systems at various levels of the launch vehicle. Coming to the aerial view, what we are seeing, the right side is the current form of PSLV integration facilities. Now what we are doing in the left side, what you are seeing, we are slightly augmenting this first launch pad concept, something like a second launch pad concept. That means if we can take the vehicle back on a track to a fixed building far off, then we have the chance of prioritizing the launch vehicle and also throughput. The number of launches currently what we are able to take up is only 6 launches. This augmentation with a small augmentation, small innovative idea, this capability can go up to 15 launches per year. I will touch upon what are all the elements later. These are all the integration sequence, how the one PSLV vehicle getting ready. Now you are seeing the topmost slide from the left corner. There is a nozzle and segment because the first stage comes in terms of segments, and the nozzle and segment is positioned on the central annular structure. Over that the nozzle and segment will be kept and the vehicle will be really sitting on the support blocks. And the next slide what you are seeing is the joint, segment joint. That is one segment and other segment, they are getting joined with the tongue and groove mechanism with the o-ring, that is pressure tight seals with the o-rings, and it is being assembled by means of 144 numbers of pins. Then the first stage operation is completed. We are seeing the next slide, the igniter. Igniter is the small motor which gives the first pulse or first energy for the motor to fire. Then coming to the bottom slide, we are seeing the step-ons one by one. Of the 6 step-ons one by one, they are getting assembled. Then the next slide, the second stage is getting assembled. Then there is a interstage. There is a between one stage to other stage, there is something called interstage, where in the electronics packages and control systems of the component will be kept inside, and all these things will be assembled one after the other. What you are seeing is that at the end of the third stage and fourth stage, we are going to assemble the satellite inside a clean room inside the launch pad, and we are closing the satellite with means of a heat shield. That is the protection what we are giving during atmospheric regime, where the high aerodynamic heating should not spoil the satellite systems when it is in the ascending phase. And last is the takeoff. When the mobile service tower is withdrawn, it is moved away by 150 meters from the present position. The launch pad is free and it will be operated remotely on the day of launch. Coming to second launch pad system, it is aerial view. Here you are seeing 3 independent elements. One is the low bay for the vehicle assembly building, another one is the full-fledged vehicle assembly building, another one is the umbilical tower, that is the launch pad and JDD separately available. Here the launch vehicle preparation will be starting from the different buildings. Upon completion of all the checks and assembly integration, the fully integrated vehicle will be moved to launch pad just 5 days before the takeoff, so that in the final phase of operations like liquid propellant filling, cryogenic propellant filling, final electrical checks, final charging, final countdown, everything will take place. The launch will be taking place. This we have the flexibility, and also number of launch throughput also very high. In case of call off also we don't have any problem, vehicle can be easily brought back. This is the concept what we are following since 2005 onwards. Coming to the glimpses of the activities that are being carried out, one of the GSLV Mark II activity I am showing. If you see the integrated vehicle is coming out of the assembly building, and after the assembly building it is going to the UT. From after going to umbilical tower, that launch pad area, we have a number of working platforms where the platforms can be used for approaching various levels of the launch vehicle. Then the vehicle final minute operations are carried out. Here also the launch pad, when we call, there are different operations, different elements of the ground system. That is, one is the mobile launch pedestal along with the vehicle moves there, and there is a jet deflector, and there is a umbilical tower, there is a foldable and swingable platforms where people can go and work, and these are all the pictorial view, photography view, what is showing from the elements of the second launch pad. Coming to the glimpses of the activities that are coming into the second launch pad, we are getting, these are the following items, nozzle and segment, and as we are doing in the first launch pad, these operations are carried out one after the other as we are doing in the first launch pad also. Finally, the integrated vehicle is moved out. Now, coming to the Mark III assembly vehicle, another, we have two solid motor assembly towers for the 200 tons of solid motor you are seeing left side, and on other side the segments are prepared one after the other, and the joints are made each motor. When both the motors are made ready, they are going to be positioned on the mobile launch pedestal as a single unit. This is the pictorial view where we are seeing the two strap-ons, solid strap-ons sitting there, and they are integrated. Finally, after the alignment of both the motors with the required gap, the liquid stage will be brought inside. Now you are seeing the liquid stage, that 100 tons of liquid engine is assembled. Over that, the grey color what you are seeing is the cryogenic stage, and the final assembly, the encapsulated assembly, we call it as the satellite, payload adapter and heat shield, all put together, that we are making as a single unit, and that is being assembled on the top. Now the fully integrated vehicle of Mark III moves out of the integration building, and that goes to the launch pad, that is called a second launch pad, where you are seeing the motor coming here, and final checks are taking place, like a propellant filling operations and checking operations, gas charging operations, that the vehicle takes off from the launch pad. Coming to the reusable launch vehicle and expendable launch vehicles, so far what we are seeing is the expendable launch vehicles, where every time the flight systems what we spend it is becoming a waste. Only spacecraft we are giving to the orbit. But what is that aim? Mainly reusable launch vehicle technology is something like aircraft technology, like aircraft after the unloading the passengers, it is getting safely back to the airport. Thereby we are not expending the structural thing, and we accept the propellant what we spent, the structural thing is coming back to you. Thereby the turnaround time and the overall break-even cost of the launch vehicle per kg is coming down. Today's competitive thing, we have to think something like that. For that we are now doing some demonstration before going to actual developmental of work. A cost-effective and reliable and robust and simple fully reusable space transportation system, something like an aircraft we should make. The risk involved in the aircraft type of structure is something high. This is like a space shuttle. You might have heard the recent days also, space tourism, people are going to space with the thrust power divided by the rocket motor, and afterwards they are re-entry through like a aircraft type of thing and landing. Thereby they are feeling the zero gravity situation. Zero gravity is nothing but a free falling object. Everybody can have the zero G feeling, and they can come like an aircraft. Thereby the space tourism and space approach will become a very simpler thing. So we are also aiming to demonstrate the technology in a model type, prototype, before going for a final phase of landing. Coming to the typical flight profile of the reusable launch vehicle, now to record thrust power we want to give a strap-on motor of PSGLV strap-on, which is something around 9 tons of propellant. Over that, a 2-ton mass of prototype reusable launch vehicle, a winged body like an aircraft type of structure. We have conducted number of experiments. First of all, we will call is the aerodynamic force what is going to act if the vehicle is picking up supersonic speed, that is Mach number 3, Mach number 4, and supersonic, then it goes to hypersonic. Whether the structure is capable of withstanding these hypersonic loads, aerodynamic loads, and heating loads, acoustic loads or not. With this configuration, liftoff was carried out, and we have successfully demonstrated at an altitude of 50 km. Thereby, with the inertia, the altitude has reached 150 km. After reorienting, and then the vehicle has come and do landing. But of course, our experiment was not for landing. It is only to see the withstandability of the structure, which through telemetry instrumentation we found the structure was intact.
Now, this is the activities what we have carried out for the demonstrating the reusable launch vehicle technology at the first launch pad. When we say the challenge, any type of launch pad system which is originally envisaged for a particular type of launch vehicle, whenever the dimensions are getting changed, it may increase or it may come down. What type of technological adaptation we can make? That is called technology by adapting. We will suitably modify the existing system without compromising the regular use it's meant for, and we can do it. This is how a 2.8 meter diameter base launch pedestal we have properly modified and adapted with the suitable interfacing things, and we could able to successfully assemble and integrate and test it for the technology demonstrator vehicle. Then coming to the launch complex augmentation, when we say the launch complex is getting augmented, first of all our throughput, the current launch capability of Satish Dhawan Space Center with the current infrastructure is only 12 launches per year, whereas but with the slight augmentation we could able to go with the 14 launches. That is the augmentation of the low bay for the second launch pad from 12 launch to 14 launches per year we are able to go, and later on we realized the second vehicle assembly building in the second launch pad, thereby the throughput has gone to 17 launches per year. Now what we are doing, the first launch pad we are going to augment with the ideal concept. That means in case of a vehicle, integrated vehicle, if you can able to transport to the elsewhere, so that here the advantage is both the launch pad also because of the mobile service tower we can start one integration, and also the integration building also we can start one integration. Thereby simultaneous integration of two vehicles at two different places can be made possible, and the turnaround time can be brought down. Now our capability stands with 26 launches per year. Coming to the third launch pad, this is also a launch vehicle beyond Mark III and very high level, high lift launch vehicles in the future when we are going to look at it. The present second launch pad also not capable, so we are planning to have a third launch pad. When such a scenario comes, Satish Dhawan Space Center can accommodate 32 launches per year. Now coming to the second vehicle assembly building, these are all the pictorial view where the launch complex facilities are operated, what are all the important things. This is having a huge integration building around 100 meter tall, and with is having a 450 tons of EOT crane and 7 pairs of reinforcement sliding doors and 6 sets of platforms and a bogie system for transporting the vehicle and a hauler for pulling the vehicle and bogie, and there is a checkout and pneumatic interfacing system. This vehicle is going to be used for both Chandrayaan as well as the human rated launch vehicle Gaganyaan programs. Coming to the objective, first launch pad, what is the augmentation we are making? This is the 6 launches of per year is our current capability. By augmenting the integration facility with our curved track system connectivity, now we are able to go around 15 launches per year. Thereby the transformation of FLP from integration on pad, that IOP, to partial ITL concept. I cannot say it's a totally integrated transfer launch. Both methods it is possible. That advantage now we are able to make use of it in the first launch pad to increase the throughput for the future launch missions. And this is the activities what we are seeing. You can see there is an integration building, and there is a curved track of 1.5 kilometers, and there is a bogie system, there is a hauler system, and there is a number of launch pads of 3. With all these things, now we are increasing the throughput. This is the finished product, or whatever the construction completion. It's now yet to complete. Another couple of months this facility will be ready, and this transformation we are expecting to take place by the end of this year. Coming to small satellite launch vehicle SSLV, this is a new variant launch vehicle in order to cater the needs of the micro satellite programs, and this vehicle is capable of taking around 600 kg of satellite in 500 km planar orbit, and we can launch from Sriharikota, and also this vehicle can be launched from the new launch site to the southern part of the country. So this consists of advantage of this stage vehicle is all 3 solid stages. There is no last minute servicing with the propellant or pneumatic systems at pad. So the turnaround time will be brought very fast, and this will be used for very multiple purpose. And this launch vehicle is smaller in size comparing to PSLV launch vehicle. How to accommodate this SSLV launch vehicle in our existing launch pads is as a challenge, and we also made the adaptive technology how to make use of this platform with respect to working levels and also the pedestal in order to taper it to the bigger size to smaller. You know very well, any bigger size to smaller size or smaller size to bigger size, when we transform, first we will go for the studying the adequacy and the disturbance what we are going to do the existing system and the saving in cost. This is how we proceed with the basic study and go for the changing the configuration. Coming to the glimpses of the SSLV launch vehicle, it consists of 3 stages as I told. The first stage is a 85 ton propellant with 21 meter long, and the second stage is similar to the third stage of the second launch PSLV vehicle, which is around 7.4 tons of propellant and 4 meter long, and the third stage is a baby stage which is having a 4.1 ton of propellant and 3 meter long, and this capability is taking 600 kgs, where the customer satellites which are having a very micro level can be clustered and taken as a lump sum. Coming to the facilities, vehicle assembly launch facilities for SSLV, we have a number of facilities. Not even a single facilities we are going to construct or augment for the newly for the SSLV. All the available facilities we are transforming. The first launch pad, MST, mobile service tower, and mobile launch pedestal, and SS central annular structure. Everything is common, but we are making a small interface. Similarly, by the motor assembly can be prepared at the second VAB and also the first VAB of the sub-assembly building, SSAB, that can be straight away used for preparing 2 vehicles simultaneously at a time. Similarly, the second stage preparation is also being taken up in the current second stage preparation, third stage preparation facility, and the third stage also prepared in the same facility, and spacecraft also going to be prepared in the same facility. Thereby, there is no infrastructure investment for taking up this launch. Coming to the augmentation of the first launch pad for SSLV vehicle, you are seeing the launch pedestal. That photograph shows the launch pedestal has been suitably interfaced to take care of the 2.8 meter diameter to the 2 meter diameter base, and also the working platforms, because of the reduction in diameter, and the 2.8 meter cutout has been brought down to 2 meter cutout, thereby the comfortable working, and also the platforms, the launch pad platforms, they are capable of foldable and also vertically repositionable type. Whatever the height you want, the rangeability we will work out, and we are comfortable in doing the operation, and we are ready for taking up this launch. Coming to the glimpses of the activities, these are all the photographs showing the segment joint preparation and making the joint, and also the successful demonstration of the static test, that the work and design, everything is completed in accordance with the requirement. This is another view of the igniter assembly and the segment assembly, how the finished motor is going. I am showing these photographs, you can look at it. And the encapsulator assembly also can be prepared in the form where the satellites of other launch vehicles are being prepared. But there is one small additional thing is the satellite final orientation, because the third stage is being a liquid stage. We are having a baby, a small liquid engine that is called velocity trimming module VTM. That module is having a small amount of propellant filling. That also we will be taking care at par with the satellite filling time. Coming to the Gaganyaan mission, the launch pad augmentation, what are all the things we are planning? As you are all aware, in place of a payload, we are going to send the humans to space and also bring them safe to the earth by way of re-entry technique. The Gaganyaan mission, instead of spacecraft, we have 3 new elements. That is, one is called crew module, where the astronauts will be accompanied inside the crew seat and other things. That is the living or resting place for the astronauts, and supported by the propulsion system and the power management system in terms of a service module, environmental control system. Everything is kept in the service module. The service module services the crew requirement during mission. And there is another one is emergency escape system. In case of a danger, the crew has to be taken away from the danger and thereby landing them safely by the means of deceleration system, parachute system, and they will be safely recovered on the ground. Then coming to the Gaganyaan mission requirements prior to going for the manned mission into orbit, the crew module has to be meticulously tested and planned by means of its characteristics due to dropping, that is the touchdown velocity, how the module withstands the shock and dynamic loads that is coming and landing. For that integrated airdrop test with a helicopter, we will take to the altitude and drop it and see the performance of the deceleration system like parachute timing and parachute opening and parachute cutting. Another one is called the pad abort test. In case of the danger, the solid motors assembled on the top of the vehicle will lift the crew module something around 4 kilometers downrange and 2 kilometer altitude, and within no time, 1.6 seconds time, the crew has to be separated from the danger vehicle, and they will touch down on the sea where they will be recovered safely. Then coming to the test vehicle plan, that is another one is we are only taking the pad abort condition. There are during mission also there is a danger is coming during the atmospheric regime, maximum acceleration condition, maximum aerodynamic conditions. There are different conditions of the flight path, there will be a danger, the crew has to be safely taken up. For that we are having a program called a test vehicle program where one of the GSLV vehicle without cryogenic stage we are going to put this module, and that will be taken to the different regime, different Mach numbers, different aerodynamic conditions, and they will be recovered back. Coming to the programs, first mission will be unmanned mission simulating the Mars, thereby the re-entry will be ensured, the orbital and maneuverability, recovery point of view, everything will be demonstrated with unmanned mission, followed by the well-established, well-reliable, quality-proven manned mission program. These are all the glimpses of the activities what we have carried out, the integrated airdrop test. The crew module will be carried by means of a Mi-17 helicopter, and it was taken to the record altitude of around 4 kilometers to 5 kilometers. Then with the snipping technique it will be dropped from there, and we have carried out, and while the crew module approximately 300 seconds till touchdown, all the telemetry parameters were monitored, and the necessary action item and correction we have taken up in order to improvise the crew module touchdown thing. As you are all aware, this is the integrated airdrop test sequence in the schematic, how it is shown, how it has done, and we already recovered after the 4 kilometers drop at the Sriharikota range with the 5.8 tons, and another 7 more tests with the different configurations we are planning to conduct before the actual unmanned mission is taken up. And this is one of the shot taken when the helicopter is carrying the crew module before dropping it into the sea. And these are all the pad abort test. I told you, whenever the danger is sensitized, the vehicle is sitting on the pad, that is a highly dangerous thing, because the entire propellant mass, the total danger system will be there. The crew will not have any time or procedure or path to escape from the launch vehicle. Then they will easily escape through the crew escape system from the pad abort firing. And this is the condition around impact of 2.7 to 3 kilometers downrange they have touched, and reach a peak altitude of around 2 kilometers, and the dynamic pressure will be 1 kilopascal, and it should be limited to 5 kilopascal. And this is the demonstration setup what we see. Yes, exclusive test site was identified near the coastal area, and this is the working tower and the base platform where the crew escape system will be integrated, and the cyclonic conditions also this tower has to withstand, and the tests are conducted. I will show, this is one of the tests what we conducted, the pad abort test, the before firing, this is the model, and after firing, this is the condition, and after touchdown, with the help of towing boats and a facility ground crane, this crew module was recovered within no time. Coming to the test vehicle program, this the pad abort test and the other test, we are now planning to go with the one, instead of like RLV we had a S9 motor, here we are going to make use of a L40, 40-ton liquid propellant engine. We are going to keep this instead of keeping the crew module and service module and escape system from the ground fixed end. We are going to dynamic time. The vehicle will be taken to some altitude, and this will be demonstrated for the transonic condition, maximum angle of attack, that is Qmax condition, and the high altitude escape motor and low altitude escape motor, how they are performing together and alone. All the conditions the capability of the vehicle, the capability of the structure of the crew module, the capability of the escape motors, power, everything will be demonstrated in the coming test. This is the pictorial view of the test vehicle configuration. The vehicle will take off and it goes to the altitude of around 50 kilometers by crossing the zone, and at the test 1, test 2, test 3 we are going to do number of tests, and we are going to recover the crew module by studying the characteristics. This particular test also we are planning to do in the first launch pad by adopting the technology what you are seeing here. This is another 2.1 meter diameter interface, and it is having different working levels. The first launch pad system will be used effectively to carry out this launch, including the propellant servicing operations. And coming to the launch pad, second launch pad, the crew Gaganyaan related works, we have a major elements that is called crew ingress and egress system. Crew ingress egress system, what we generally call is a normal ingress and normal egress. Whenever the crew is ready, before the mission is ready, T-minus 2.5 hours, the crew will start from the respective astronaut accommodating facility, and they will be going to the launch pad when all the propellant systems are readily charged condition, and then again they have a cryogenic propellant will be undergoing a very critical operation called thermostatic operation. Under that circumstances, when the launch environment is highly risky, highly danger, the crew will be approaching through a bubble lift, that is elevator, 42.1 meters height they will reach, and there is a bridging platform from the umbilical tower to the working platform, that is called crew access arm, that yellow color what we are seeing. Then there is a fixed platform, the green color fixed platform. From there, there is an interface between the ground system to the crew module hatch opening point. It is called white room, where the final crew readiness will be made in the white room. White room is the place where the crew suit-up trials will be made, and like a last minute checks like crew suit leak checks, and the final voice communication checks, and health check of the crew member. Everything will be momentarily carried out, and the hatch plate will be opened, and the crew will be entering inside the crew module. With the help of the ground staff, the crew will enter, and the hatch plate will be closed. The ground staff will return back normally. In case of the danger, when all the 6 people are there at the launch pad entry time, the range safety warning is given. The crew has to escape through emergency escape system, which I will explain later. It is a passive system with operating a lever. Around 450 meters away, a bunker, the crew members will land within short time. That is another new element what we are going to envisage in the second launch pad system. These are all the augmentations required for the Gaganyaan mission. It is a challenging thing. This also we are adapting the available launch pad, modifying for the crew. This is the pictorial view. What we are seeing is the crew access arm, and the Mark III is the vehicle is the candidate for the crew which we can take a crew size of 3. Maximum 3 crew can go in the crew module, and this is the operation sequence. They will go in the bubble lift to 42.8 meters, and through the access arm they will enter. After entry, the closeout staff will come back with the normal egress route. Then finally, the platforms will be remotely swing out, so that the launch vehicle will not have any hindrance with the ground system. In case they call off, the crew has to come back. The platforms will be swung back to the position, so that the recovery team will go and bring the crew once again. That is called normal egress. Coming to the orbital module preparation facility, that is, I told orbital module consists of crew module, service module, and a emergency escape system. Here we are realizing a new element, because lot of new activities are going to be there with respect to RF checks and other things. A exclusive facility is being realized, and it is coming up now. And this another one is called, we call it as a Gaganyaan crew quarantine facility. We call it as a Gagan Yatri Niwas, where the trained crew members will be kept under isolation. You know very well, the present pandemic conditions, it is not fair. The crew mixing with other people, there will be total isolation, biological contamination free, and pollution free and germ free environment with all kind of contaminated, sterilized environment. Crew will be kept much before the launch. That is called almost 10 days to 15 days of the launch. They will be reaching, and they will be kept under different observation, monitoring, and food. Everything will be controlled. and this microbial control and other things based on the standards with what is being provided for the astronauts, that will be maintained, and the crew will start from this facility. This is also new facilities being coming up. Coming to control facility, you know very well, conventional launch vehicle we have only one time, that is, there is no re-entry business. It is only pre-launch, and during launch there is nothing called post-launch. Whereas the Gaganyaan mission, we have activities like any other conventional launch vehicle. There is a pre-launch activity, and also the during launch monitoring, and on-orbit monitoring, because the crew has to be there for the number of days, maybe 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, months together. Continuous monitoring of the crew, that is the monitoring facility. Another one is the re-entry. When the crew wants to re-enter, in case of emergency where they will land, in case of abort where they will land, in case of the planned activity, there is a trajectory and number of orbit, how much you will control. So there will be a 3-tier operations, and also the conventional launch vehicle, it's only a payload, whereas the crew, a human monitoring, a crew surgeon, a crew medical team, all will be located, and everything will be monitored in this facility. This is one of the existing facility we are converting as a control facility for the crew model. And this is the Gaganyaan mission. Just I want to say the launch phase, then they will have reaching the low Earth orbit, and the crew will be spending some time. Then afterwards the crew module will be separated from the service module when it crosses the atmosphere, because there is no need to have the service module. Then with the help of the parachutes and deceleration system, the crew will touch down, and after touchdown the crew will be recovered from the ground staff, both the Navy, Air Force and the helicopters, aircrafts, and also the well-deck ships will be used for recovering the crew. Coming to the recovery procedure, these are all the procedures. But first, the touchdown point has to be located by means of a GPS, beacons, dye markers, and also the ship-based monitoring. After the locating, the number of recovery ships should reach, because you know the travel by a ship to a particular destination will take more time, and how best the aircraft carrier ships can send the aircraft to locate and drop the diving team, maybe Navy, Coast Guard, this kind of recovery team will jump and then take out the crew and then make them safe till the ship moves to the point, and the crew module and the crew will be lifted from the waters. This is some of the typical pad abort test sequence that how in case of pad abort we don't have any concern, because it's close to the Sri Harikota coast and we have the recovery system and already demonstrated. In case of the deep sea and in some unexpected point throughout the globe, then it will be a tough job. There we have to engage the flight path, where are all the probable locations of the emergency abort can take place, and with the help of the support of a number of ships, flotation system, recovery system, these ships will be positioned whether they are needed or not needed. As a preparedness, we have to keep them ready. Then modified configuration of the Mark III with I tell you, the future mission, this propulsive power may not be adequate. We are going to augment the propulsive power. In place of the existing 100 tons of liquid propellant, we are going to take care of the additional propulsive thrust by means of having a semi-cryo, SC-120 means 120 tons of semi-cryo. Semi-cryo means we are using a liquid fuel, that is an storable fuel called Isrosine. It's nothing but a aviation fuel. Another one is liquid oxygen. The hybrid combination of liquid oxygen and the aviation fuel, that is the Isrosine, the specific impulse as well as the power generated by the core vehicle become enormous. Thereby we can take more capability of payload, and the 25 tons of cryo stage is going to be augmented to 32 tons of cryo stage. So for this we have to go for the number of modifications in the launch pad. Basically the semi-cryogenic booster. So far we have a cryogenic servicing facilities only in the upper stages. When it's coming to the booster stage, normally we need to augment something on the existing launch pedestal, for which we are going to realize a new launch pedestal for this Mark III purpose. This being on, and there is a servicing, umbilical servicing towers that has to be there for the liquid oxygen as well as the frozen chemical. That is all independently kept, and their impact on the lifting vehicle with respect to jet load, acoustic load, thermal load has to be thoroughly studied, and we are going to incorporate. Coming to the augmentation of the cryogenic stage, C32 stage, it is a huge stage comparing to C25. So now what we are planning to do is the cryo-arm requirements and the kind of operation is being modified so that the cryo-arm will be lifted off only after ensuring the vehicle is lifting. Currently what we are doing is much before the lift of the cryo-arm is being separated, which is not a good sign in case of a semi-cryo stage sitting at the bottom. So what we are planning this phase after ensuring at the same time the arm separation should not hinder with the bottom stage. So both the dynamism and the angle of travel has to be meticulously studied, and we are now going to make it happen that the cryo-arm will separate at liftoff, and thereby the combination of the next generation launch vehicle with the semi-cryo and 32 tons of cryogenic, full cryogenic stage will make it possible to at the earliest. Coming to, this is the roadmap for the our space program up to 2025. You know very well, we were so far whatever we marched, we are all aware, and we had a very good progress in terms of placing number of satellites and fulfilling the needs of the requirements of the common need and country's need. But future what we see, number one is the aircraft type of like a space shuttle type of thing where we are going to reuse it many number of times. Another one is the two-stage to orbit and single stage to orbit. That should be our aim. That means what I say, the single stage to orbit is recovering all the booster stages as well as the upper stages, and if we can make it useful for the n number of cyclic time, then the overall cost as well as the turnaround time between launches will come down. I hope the days are not far off. The technology demonstrator vehicle and the test vehicle program TVP will demonstrate our control system's capability, because a control system can do, we are able to land in the moon itself, so we can land on the earth also. It's not a problem. So once that advancement we will take, the total cost of launch will become drastically less. That is the aim of ISRO to go with the future program. So with these few words, let me thank every one of you for patiently listening to my lecture. Hope any queries or doubt, you can contact to our website, and all the doubts will be clarified through mail. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.